Hey guys, Seagulls here, getting over my self-consciousness one blog at a time, again. Uh, this week is a big week for the UK, for obvious reasons, because it's the EU referendum. So, I just thought that I'd give you my opinion on the whole thing, how I'm going to vote, because it's a big deal, obviously. This is probably the biggest vote I will ever have, anyone will ever have, in their lifetime. So, I just thought, I'd give my 2 cents on how I'm going to vote in this thing. So I just thought I'd start by saying I'm not really a big politics guy. I don't, I don't know more than most people about this thing, but I just thought I'd talk about it anyway. So I'm voting to stay in. Gonna get that right out there. I'm voting to stay in the EU, and there's a very good reason for that. Well, mostly because this whole debate thing that's been going on for a few months now, as far as I'm concerned, has been completely useless in every way possible. There's been so much misinformation. No one really knows what will happen if we stay in or stay out. So frankly, why would you change it if you don't know what's going to happen either way? You know, if you vote to stay in, it stays the same. No one really knows what's going to happen. So I don't see why we should change that. Because there's just so many numbers floating about. 350 million I've got on the screen in front of me with a bunch of info there for just for looking at. But this whole 350 million, which just doesn't make any sense because it's more like 190 million apparently, and so but that's the number they're using because it's just spouting off 350 million a week to the EU, and it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And they're like, oh, we can build a new hospital with that. That's 350 million can get a new hospital, as if they're going to be building new hospitals every single week, and that's needed. When in reality, if they did build new hospitals every week, they wouldn't be able to fill them with nurses and doctors or whatever, because a lot of them come from other countries, and they've failed to see that. It's what I just don't get it at all. While we're on the whole 350 million a week thing, which again is wrong, it's 190 approximately. The 190 million that is paid to the EU is if we want to stay in the single market, which is what they're all saying. If we leave, we'll still be able to work with all these countries. To do that, you still have to pay, around the same number to trade with all these countries anyway. So effectively, there'll be no difference. None of this money is going to go to hospitals or schools or whatever, because we still have to pay to trade with the EU even if we leave. So yeah. And then the Leave campaign, they've got this ad running about I've got it on the screen in front of me. There's two people going into the hospital, and if you're in the EU, you have to wait for for an appointment. Whereas if we leave the EU, you can just walk right through, as if that makes any sense. Because as if leaving the EU makes people less injured. You don't need to go to the hospital. You'll be fine. By leaving the EU, you'll become invincible, and less people will be going into hospitals. So you'll be able to just walk right through. Yeah, that makes sense, right? So this whole thing has pretty much been about, the whole debate's been about immigration and then the economy. So if we start off with, I've pretty already, sort of talked about immigration a bit, but it's almost as if people seem to think that by voting to leave, all the immigrants are just going to get kicked out and the borders are going to be closed, Donald Trump style, I guess. But that makes no sense. You can't just close the borders immediately, as most people seem to think you can. If anything, short-term immigration will probably go up if we vote to leave, purely because you can't close the borders immediately. So people are gonna try and get in while they still can. You know what I mean? If anything, it's gonna lead to just a surge in migration, at least in my opinion. That's what I think, because people are gonna want to get in while they still can. If we vote to leave, eventually we'll probably close the borders or whatever, but you can't do it immediately. So it's just going to lead to a short-term surge in migration into the country, which is obviously what the people voting to leave don't want. And then there's the economic impacts of the whole thing, which everyone outside the Leave campaign seems to say, the economy is going to be worse off if we leave. So why would you want to jeopardize the economy, which is, it's taken a while to get back from, what was it, 2008, the recession when it started? We're just about getting out of it now, and then suddenly, let's ruin it by leaving, apparently, according to almost every expert. And then there's the EU regulations that are forced on products that are produced in the UK. If you want to trade with countries in the EU, you're still going to have those regulations. You're still going to have to obey them if you want to sell to countries within the EU, which the Leave campaign seems to want to, because they keep going on about we're still going to be able to trade, but those regulations are still going to be there if you want to do that. The last thing I want to talk about with this whole EU thing is just an example of how the EU has helped the UK a lot, and that's Liverpool. Being from the northwest, Liverpool's what, half an hour train journey from where I live, and before 2008, Liverpool wasn't a very nice place to be until it got the capital of culture in 2008, and the EU invested a lot of money into Liverpool, and now it's a lot nicer than it was. So Liverpool's been helped out a lot by the EU. I'm sure many other places have probably benefited from money from the EU as well. But Liverpool is a key example because it's obviously so close to me. Again, half an hour away from where I live. So that's just my short opinion on why I'm going to remain in the EU. If you want a slightly better, more well-pronunciated argument than me, go and watch the John Oliver Last Week Tonight video about the Brexit. That it came out yesterday at time of recording. It's really good. I thought it was really good, really funny as well because I like John Oliver. Last Week Tonight's really good, but he makes a much better case than I do for staying. But if you disagree or if you agree, somehow I've convinced you. Somehow, I don't know. Maybe I'm better than I thought I was at debating. I don't know, but just vote on Thursday. It's a really big deal, and especially for young people like me, young-ish people like me, who this is going to be there pretty much all your life from this point. So it's a big deal. I can't say that enough. Get out there on Thursday and vote, whichever way. Preferably Remain, but vote is the moral of the story.